So we're going to be looking at where will we be in 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, given our current thinking patterns and Western mind control. So that's going to be an interesting debate. So I think I'm going to hand back on over to Brian. I'll just see if they're ready for us now. They're ready. Okay. Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Hey, cool. Now we're going to get on to the next subject. Can you pass me the subject again,
yes.
please? The kitchen table, there's still spaces at the table if you'd like to join it and join in the conversation. There are no experts here. The table is not a table of experts, it's just a table. And it's open for anybody to join in the conversation. And it's your opportunity to talk to the world. Yeah. Okay, so if we can settle down a little bit, please, because there is no amplification, and if you're talking, no one can hear what's going on. Guys, settle down, please. Nice and quiet. Shh, 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 shh. Can I request that everybody be very, very quiet so that we can get a discussion going here, because there's no amplification. I've got a microphone, but it's not doing anything. It's going out on the internet. Yeah, explain what we're doing. Yeah, for those that have just come in, this is the kitchen table, and the kitchen table is like, you know, the conversations that happen around the kitchen table are the ones that are really real to our lives. We talk about the things that are important to us, and this is what we want to do here, is talk about the things that are really important to us. And the way we have it set up here is that this whole conversation is being broadcast live over the internet. This is going out live to the whole world. How many people do we have watching right now? Anybody know?
Yes, we have 126.
126 people watching right now. We've had 300 at some point. And those people are interacting with this conversation through message boards and through the internet and through Facebook. Okay? So I want to invite you to join the kitchen table and join in the next conversation that we're about to have. And the next conversation, it will be about where, oh, I can't read it. Where will we be in 10, 20, 50 years from now, given our current thinking patterns and the Western mind control? Okay, so who would like to take that one up? Yes? Angela. Nice one. Yeah, can I ask you to speak with the microphone close to your mouth so it goes out?
Okay.
But speak loudly so the people that are here to listen can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So, shall I just start talking?
Yeah, loud.
Is that loud enough?
Yeah, louder, go on.
Okay. So if we go with the premise that, you know, where will we be in 10, 20 years' time? If we go back 10 or 20 years' time, and we go with the idea that perhaps the way we were thinking 10 or 20 years' time is the result that's brought us to where we are today, I actually don't believe that, you know, the world is that much of a terrible place. Yes, there are a lot of bad things happening, but there's also a hell of a lot of good things that are happening. But of course, the media never focuses on that, which is why it's amazing that someone's actually taken up the mantle and created positive TV, an outlet for where we can actually say, this is the positive things, and focus people's attention onto that instead of onto all the fear all the time of the mass media, which I don't know if anyone's recently seen a positive story in the mass media. I certainly haven't. I don't even watch it anymore. So if we want to affect positive change, then we could look at what's brought us to the point that we are today and what thinking now, what that might actually create in the future. And it's kind of a difficult thing to get your head around because it's, how can you measure it, you know? It's just it's so expansive, just everybody's mindset, and it's how do you shift people's mindsets from, you know, the fear and, as you were talking earlier on, about love, and it's really quite a simple thing. I think Bill Hicks says it really well. It's just a choice between love and fear. And the eyes of fear want you to put more locks on your door, and the eyes of love want to actually wake up and recognize that maybe there isn't that much to be frightened about. Okay. Anyone else want to add to that?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's the perception of a guy called Ervin Laszlo, who's connected to the World Shift 2012, is that that it's the role of our generation to have a positive view of the future. So to not buy into the fear and actually decide that we are in a paradigm shift, and that the paradigm shift is to oneness, and that when we realize oneness as a collective conscious, everything we do is done from a different place. So it's not like we have to think in advance of how we're going to reorganize the world, but we need to acknowledge that there is an opportunity for us to come back to oneness through this opportunity that exists as a threshold of 2012, that there's a date, June the 6th, and there's another date, 21st of December. And on June the 6th, Venus goes in front of the sun. And obviously we all know that Venus represents love and its manifestation on the planet. And so I believe that event, the 6th of June, opens a portal to love being the solution of how we walk across the bridge of love to the world of oneness. And I believe that we're actually preparing ourselves and becoming aware of the potential of humanity to exist in a state of oneness, and that it's a bit like the potential difference. If you've got a positive and negative pole, and let's say, for instance, we're on the negative pole of separation, and to be on the positive pole of separation is to be in oneness, but you need a certain amount of energy to jump from the negative pole to the positive pole. And so here we are building up energy on this negative pole of reality in the world of separation, learning about how it is to be separate and believe that it's possible to, some people believe it's possible to be separate from everything, that there is no God, there is no connection to the world, there is no connection to anybody else, and they're feeling completely alone right now. And other people believe that they're completely connected to everything, the whole cosmos, the universe, that God is inside and outside, that they're connected, and there was only one person on the planet. And so the potential for oneness is growing, and there will be a point at which we leap energetically from the space of separation to the place of oneness and collective consciousness. And it can seem as though nothing's happening because the energy is building, and it takes just 0.1% extra energy potentially arriving in 2012 to help us make the leap in potential from where we are to where we're going. So I say that, now it's not possible to conceive of a life in oneness because we're not experiencing it, we're tasting it occasionally. And I believe there'll be a point at which we cross over into realizing, not just as a thought form, but as an actual deep realization of collective consciousness, oneness and unity upon the planet, that everything about everything will change, and that will bring about a way of living that puts everything in harmony with itself. And so it will be the end of wars, and the golden age of peace will be upon us. That's what I believe is going to happen.
I think that is one side of the picture, and if that happens, I think it changes everything else. But I was just thinking along the lines of certain established structures in the Western world, which I think have sort of shown themselves to be extremely shaky. One of them being the banking system, which has shown itself to be very much built on sand. And that most of the money that everybody borrows is artificial and virtual money, and it's all done for the benefit of the bankers. And the recent crisis in the banking system has really shown this to be true. And the power of the banks and the money system generally to influence not only the small borrower, but indeed nations, and keep them in debt, so that they can be exploited. I think that situation is coming to the light, and that another system will take its place. I'm not quite sure what, but that type of situation is shown just not to work. The other area which I think is probably moving in a specific direction is in the world of medicine, where if you go to the doctor today, you'll almost certainly emerge with a packet of pills, whatever your problem, from a twisted ankle to a pneumonia or whatever it might be, that the whole health system is based on drugs. And I think there is an increasing awareness of the other side of health, the invisible side of health, the energetic side of health, which is becoming more accepted. And I suppose it's all based on quantum physics, which is now the world of the invisible, and the energy that drives every cell in the body, and the whole health system, which has become a business, as opposed to a health restorer, will give way to an energetic system of healing, which will undoubtedly make the world a healthier place.
Right. I've approached this in a slightly different way. I've taught maths, and one of the things I did, one of the games that I played with the kids was, I used percentages, try and work on percentages. I asked them, what's the percentage chance so we're like living in 2030, and we're looking back from 2030, it's like a thought experiment. You say, by 2030, what kind of world are we living in? Are we living in a world where there's been a major disaster? I mean, major, nuclear, environmental, we're just talking about Third World War, just cataclysmic, okay? What's the chances that we're living in that world? Option number two, the kind of world we're living in now, it's kind of stable, but it's not particularly fair. There's lots of people suffering, major problems, we haven't sorted it out, but it is stable. And just now it isn't quite. But what happens if it becomes stable? Okay, so corporations get the right, relationships with the governments, and it becomes stable, right? What's the percentage of that? And then what's the percentage chance of us actually getting a sustainable, global, really environmentally safe and sound condition?
Well, David, I think the answer is up to us, Collectively, we hold the power. And we were talking about this 15,000 people that have, got the most money in the world that are controlling everything, yeah? We're actually the bigger number here. There's loads of us. There's very, very few of them, yeah? And if we can all, like you were saying earlier on, cause some sort of shift in people's thinking and get people to understand that, and we actually are, we're the numbers. We're huge, and yet there is this small elitist power that is, again, with the banks. That's completely bankrupt, what's happened there. But who's going to sort it out? Who's going to be responsible? Corporations, there's no responsibility there. It's all, there's no individual that you can hold accountable, So it's down to us. It's down to us to start loving each other, to talk, to. I
agree.
Yeah.
I agree too. But the point of the thought experiment was that if somebody says there's 0% chance that we'll get a global sustainable situation going on, it's not even in the same ballpark that you're talking. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? And what I'm finding is that people are having conversations when we're not even in the same ballpark. And so everybody here, I'm fairly certain, if you did that little thought experiment, thinks, oh yeah, by 2030 or 2040, looking back, yeah, fairly high chance we've actually managed to get a sustainable global situation. I don't know what you were thinking. All right, but if somebody thinks it's 0, you can't talk that way to them because they're not even on the ballpark. So the trick is how do you broach this subject? Because otherwise we're just kind of preaching to each other, to the choir, and it's just like, it's all very nice, all very positive, we all clap our hands, we all feel good, but do you see? So the trick is we do need to do this kind of, get in the ballpark and kind of do a kind of confrontation, conversion, kind of like that.
One of the most reassuring things that I ever saw was in the early years of Stonehenge Festival. There were maybe 200-300 of us gathered, and I don't know whose idea it was, but this name Wally is to blame for this, kept coming up, and you may have heard the stories about how everybody ended up being called Wally.
No way.
Yes. Yeah, it was like Spartacus. We'd have our collars felt, and we'd all be called Wally. But the thing that I'm really trying to talk about here is, left to themselves, what I learned, what I saw happen over a period of a few years, was that left to themselves, given the option to do negative or good things, people actually looking out for one another. That's what I saw happen. And there were a diversity of people there. You know, there were people coming along with the sort of motorcycles, and there were people who'd been in the squatting scene in London, which I had been at that time. People from all sorts of backgrounds. But when it came to the moment of realization that there was no light switch we could switch on, and it was getting colder because the sun was going down behind the hills, people actually did get together and they did look out for one another. And I think, given the chance, it will happen again. I believe that's innate. And that's all I want to say on that.
Hi, folks. The mind control is interesting for me because I personally, I'm with Sunbird on this. We've been mind controlled for thousands and thousands of years, and that's what we need to wake up to. That the shift that is coming is the shift from, like somebody was saying, from division, separation into division into is that better? Into oneness consciousness. And if we look at the mind control is in every aspect of our thinking. It's in our thoughts about how evolution occurs. There's a whole other theory of evolution called punctuated equilibrium. And in punctuated equilibrium, every now and again, a massive event occurs. It may be a meteor strike, it may be a shift in the sun's solar energy output, but that pushes all life into a massive, rapid evolution. And then it slows down into the traditional Darwinian. But because it happens so quickly, there's not the fossil evidence for it. It's not there. So you can't prove it in the same way as you can prove that natural selection works over a long period of time, which it does. And for me, consciousness works in the same way. And we have been programmed to believe that consciousness evolves very, very slowly over a long period of time. And I don't believe it does. I think the discovery of psychedelic substances 35,000 years ago shifted humanity's thinking into a whole other level. And I believe the events of 6 of June 2012, when the planet is blasted 6 hours 40 minutes by the most powerful, divine, unconditional love you can imagine. The first time I experienced this was actually at a festival Sunbird put on at the Venus Transit Camp in Cornwall 2004 for the first Venus Transit. They come in two 8-year spans, and then it's another 105 years till the next one. And it was a physical experience. I felt my heart opening. And my belief is that actually if enough people together across the planet unite with the same vibration as Venus's, which is open-hearted love, there's the possibility of a planetary entrainment. So Earth's frequency raises to that of Venus, and things can change in a moment. And that's, that'll do.
Thank
you very much. And we're on a 30-minute rotation on subjects to keep it rolling forward. And we've got another subject. I think, Jeremy, did you want to introduce this one? You're going to introduce it over on that. Okay, Jeremy from Positive TV, over to you.
That was another great debate there at the kitchen table here at the Glastonbury Assembly Rooms. So I'm here with Jeremy from Positive TV.
Back again.
So I was keen to ask Jeremy really how all this started. How did the kitchen table idea get planted in your mind?
Well, Natalie, it was about having kind of started up our whole company based around a kitchen table. I mean, that was the formative place was the kitchen table. It's where Dana and I spent so much time. Normally not with a cup of tea, normally
glass
with a bottle
of wine, I bet.
It's funny that, because all the best ideas do tend to come with a glass of wine, oddly enough. For those who don't drink wine, obviously tea works almost as well. We found ourselves constantly sort of debating about what was needed. And initially, we were both really, really impressed by Positive News newspaper. Do you know?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Positive News newspaper was just astonishing, absolutely fantastic. It was the only thing I'd ever seen like it. It has a really, really small circulation, 25,000 people. It's a newspaper that really should be taken out to the rest of the world. So then sort of investors out there listening,
Yes.
they need a hand.
Yeah.
That Positive News newspaper needs to be
Yeah.
spread.
Yeah.
But one of the first people we actually interviewed was a lady called Shauna, who actually runs Positive News newspaper. And I thought, you know, the great sort of leading question was to say to her, what do you think of the youth of today? Now, it has to be said that Shauna, at that stage when we interviewed her, was 77 years old. And we said, okay, so what do you think of the youth of today,
Yes.
Shauna? Expecting the obvious answer. And she went, oh my God, aren't they wonderful, darling? Aren't they amazing? They're so incredible. There's so many young people doing wonderful things. And that just inspired us. And it really, really sort of, you know, that was it. It all fell into place when we spoke to her. And we realised that just the idea of positive TV was just to try and give a voice to all of the kind of things that don't have, you know, coverage at all.
Yes.
I mean, the BBC, it's rarely in the last 3 years we've ever been at an event that's been attended by the BBC.
Right.
And we find so many amazing things, you know, incredible things. I think the only thing that we ever went to, the BBC went to, was the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic fun. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea was this. It was about giving a voice to people. Now, the kitchen debate is the same idea. It's about actually you out there, you know, can get us to come to your kitchen table.
That's you. You want
Indeed. Straight to your kitchen table.
Yes.
Or make a debate yourself, as Brian and you guys are doing here.
Yes.
And we'll upload that onto our website as well. So it's about expanding the idea.
So have you had many people taking you up on the idea?
Brian has been the first one.
We've been
and
the first to do the first live interactive debate.
It was completely different to what we were
Yeah.
expecting as well. We were kind of thinking, yeah, well, it'll be in Brian's kitchen table in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
That'll be nice, and there'll be a couple of wizards and a couple of, you know, sitting around the kitchen. Didn't realise that it was actually going to take place in the entire town hall.
Yes.
And with loads of people turning up and milling through the whole
Yes.
sort of event.
And it's working quite well. I mean, we've got quite a lot of people connecting with us on Twitter, on
Yeah.
the chat on the website, and through Facebook as well.
I think that
Emailing.
it's very exciting actually. And I think this is the power of an event like this, the power of the internet, is this ability that we can actually have people instantly post a question right there, and we are going to take that question right there. We're going to debate it any moment now.